Leon sat at his cluttered desk, a dim lamp casting shadows over the scattered negatives and photo prints. The once bustling photography studio was now just a relic of his past, filled with the smell of old chemicals and dusty memories. He had long since retired, his passion for photography dulled by time. But today, while cleaning out a drawer he hadn't touched in years, he found it. A small cylindrical canister of undeveloped film. He held it up to the light, his heart skipping a beat as he recognized his own handwriting scrawled on the side. June 2003. It felt like a ghost from a different time, a time when he was younger, more hopeful, a time when he was in love. With shaking hands, Leon fed the film into the developing tank, the process automatic to him even after all these years. He watched the images appear, slowly at first, and then in stark detail, the first photo made him gasp. It was her, Evelyn. Her smile was as radiant as he remembered, her dark hair blowing in the summer breeze, framed by the golden light of the setting sun. The memories hit him like a wave. They had met in that summer of 2003, a whirlwind romance that felt like a dream. He photographed her constantly, capturing the candid moments of their love, laughing together in the park, sharing ice cream by the pier, her gaze soft as she looked at him. But the photos told another story too. In the later shots, her smile was tinged with sadness, her eyes clouded with a secret she hadn't yet shared. Their relationship had ended abruptly, with no explanation from her. One day, she was simply gone, leaving him with a void he'd never been able to fill. Leon ran his fingers over the freshly developed prints, his chest tight with longing. He realized he had never truly let her go. He buried the pain, convinced himself that it was better not to dwell on the past. But now, holding these photos, he couldn't escape the pull of what they represented. A second chance to understand. I have to find her, he whispered to himself. I need to know why she left. He packed the photos carefully into his old camera bag, the one he hadn't used in years. It was time to confront the ghosts of his past, to find the woman he'd once loved more than anything. Little did he know, this journey would give him the closure he'd been searching for all along. Leon began his search the next morning, armed with nothing but the old photos and fragments of memories he clung to for over 2 decades. He visited the places where they had once spent their days together, the park where they'd had their first kiss, the cafe where they used to sit for hours, talking about everything and nothing. At the park, he approached the bench where he had taken one of his favorite photos of Evelyn. He sat down, staring at the empty space beside him, feeling her absence like a physical weight. He pulled out the photograph, studying her face, joyful, carefree, yet shadowed by something he hadn't noticed back then. A woman sitting nearby noticed the photo and leaned over. "That's a beautiful picture," she said kindly. "She looks so happy." Leon managed to smile. "She was," he said softly. "You happen to remember seeing her around here?" "It's been a long time, but..." The woman shook her head. "I'm sorry, I don't, but she looks familiar, like someone I might have known." Leon thanked her and continued his search, visiting every place he could think of. He went to old record stores they used to visit, the art gallery where they spent hours admiring the paintings. Each place brought a flood of memories, but no new answers. Finally, he stopped by the cafe they frequented. The barista, a young woman with a kind face, noticed the photograph in his hand. "I've seen that woman before," she said, surprising Leon. His heart leapt. "You have? When?" The barista frowned, thinking, "It's been years, but she used to come in here often. I remember because she always brought a book and sat by the window. She was a regular, but then one day, she stopped coming." Leon's hand shook as he paid for the coffee. He felt closer to Evelyn now, but the sense of urgency was growing. Why had she disappeared? What had happened that made her leave without a word? He needed to know, and there was only one place left to look. The small town where she'd grown up, the place she'd once taken him to meet her family. With a deep breath, he packed up his camera bag and headed for the bus station. He couldn't turn back now. The photos had given him a glimpse of their love, but he needed the full picture, and that meant finding Evelyn, wherever she was. Leon arrived at the small coastal town where Evelyn had grown up. The sea breeze carried a familiar scent of salt and pine, stirring memories of the weekend trips they used to take together. He remembered her smile as she showed him the little shops and cafes, laughter carried on the wind. It was a place full of warmth, just like her. He made his way to the town square, clutching the photos like a lifeline. It was a quaint place, unchanged by time, with a clock tower at its center and cobblestone streets lined with flower stalls. He approached an older woman selling flowers, hoping she might remember Evelyn. "Excuse me," Leon said, showing her a photo. "Do you know this woman? Her name is Evelyn. We used to come here together, years ago." The woman's face softened as she looked at the picture. "Evelyn," she said quietly. "Yes, I remember her. She was a lovely girl, always full of life. It's been a long time since I've seen her." Leon's heart clenched. "Do you know what happened to her?" The woman hesitated, her eyes full of sympathy. "I heard she got sick, very sick, but she never let anyone see her like that. She was proud, didn't want to be a burden to anyone." Leon felt like the ground had been pulled out from under him. The pieces were starting to fit together, but it wasn't the picture he had hoped for. "Where can I find her?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. The woman pointed down the street. "Her sister runs the old bookstore now. She might have the answers you're looking for." Leon thanked her, his steps slow and heavy as he walked to the bookstore. The bell above the door chimed as he entered, and a middle-aged woman looked up from behind the counter. She had Evelyn's eyes, kind, deep, and full of unspoken words. "You must be Leon," she said, surprising him. "She told me about you." Leon felt tears perk at his eyes. "I came to find her," he said, his voice breaking. "I need to know why she left." The woman's expression softened with understanding. "Come with me," she said. "There's something you need to see." She led him to a small back room filled with light from a wide window. On the wall was a framed collage of photographs, pictures of Evelyn's life, and among them were the very photos Leon had taken 2 decades ago. "She kept these," her sister said softly. "She loved you, Leon, but she was diagnosed with a terminal illness. She didn't want you to watch her fade away. She chose to leave you so you'd remember her like this, full of life." Leon sank into a chair, staring at the photos. It felt like he was seeing her for the first time all over again. "She never told me," he whispered. "She didn't want to," her sister said. "She wanted your memories together to be happy ones, without the pain." Leon sat in silence, the realization settling over him like a heavy blanket. All these years he had believed she left him, that he wasn't enough for her. He carried the weight of the loss, the bitterness of unanswered questions, and now he understood. She had left because she loved him, too much to burden him with her pain. "She was stronger than I ever knew," Leon said, his voice raw with emotion. Her sister nodded. "She was. It was the hardest decision she ever made, but she wanted you to remember her at her best. She spent her last months here surrounded by family, and she talked about you often, with nothing but love." Leon felt a bittersweet ache in his chest. "I wish I could have been there for her," he said, tears slipping down his cheeks. "I would have stayed." "I know," her sister said gently, "but that's why she didn't tell you. She wanted you to keep living, to follow your own dreams. She said you gave her some of the happiest memories and moments of her life." Leon looked at the photos on the wall, his eyes tracing the images of the shared memories. He realized now that the love they had shared was still there, untouched by time or distance. It had never really ended. It had simply transformed into something deeper. "I thought I'd come here to find her," he said quietly, "but she's been with me all along." Her sister reached into a drawer and pulled out a small, wrapped package. "She left this for you," she said, handing it to him. Leon opened it slowly, revealing a letter and a small, framed photo of the two of them. It was a candid shot he didn't remember taking. Evelyn was laughing, looking at him with such tenderness, it made his heart ache. He unfolded the letter with trembling hands. "My dearest Leon, if you're reading this, then you found me, in a way. I'm sorry for leaving the way I did, but I needed you to remember our love as it was, joyful, free, and untainted by the sadness I couldn't escape. You once told me that photographs capture a moment forever. I wanted you to have these moments, to hold on to them when you needed comfort. I never stopped loving you, and I never will. Thank you for making my life so full of beautiful memories. With all my love, Evelyn." Leon clutched the letter to his chest, a sob escaping his lips. He had spent so long searching for closure, but what he found was something even more precious. The gift of knowing that love had been real, and it had mattered. Leon returned home, his heart lighter than it had been in years. The photos in Evelyn's letter were now his most treasured possessions, sitting on the mantel above the fireplace. He no longer felt the gnawing ache of regret. Instead, he felt a profound sense of gratitude for the first time they had shared. He picked up his camera for the first time in months, feeling the familiar weight of it in his hands. He realized now that he had stopped taking photos, not because he lost his passion, but because he'd been afraid of facing the past. But Evelyn's letter had given him the courage to look back and see the beauty in what they had, rather than the pain of what he lost. He walked to the park where they had once spent so many afternoons, the sun setting in a golden haze. He lifted the camera and snapped a picture of the empty bench where they sat together. It was a tribute, a way of capturing the love that still lingered in the air even if she wasn't there beside him. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of pink and orange, the unfiltered sense of peace washed over him. He whispered into the wind, "Thank you, Evelyn." In that moment, he realized that he wasn't saying goodbye. He was saying thank you. Thank you for the memories, the love, and the lessons he had learned through their time together. He knew now that the greatest gift she had given him wasn't just the photos, but the understanding that love, once shared, never truly fades. It remains like the images frozen in his photographs, a moment captured forever. With a final glance at the bench, he turned and walked away, the camera slung over his shoulder. He had new memories to make, new photos to take. He felt lighter, like a man who had finally put down a heavy burden. The past was no longer a weight around his neck. It was a treasure, carried in his heart.